We now come to the business of the House motion. Minister to move.
Move formally.
The question is as on the order paper. No members wish to speak to that. The question is as on the order paper. As many as that opinion say aye.
Aye.
Of the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. We now come to motion number 5 on select committees. I call the Minister to move.
Move formally.
The question is as on the order paper. No members wishing to speak. The question is as on the order paper. As many as that opinion say aye.
Aye.
Of the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Now that the House has agreed to the allocation of committee chairs, I can announce that Mr Speaker has decided that the election of select committee chairs will take place on Wednesday the 11th of September between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Nominations will close at 4 p.m. on Monday the 9th of September. The election of the chair of the Backbench Business Committee will take place to the same timetable. Nomination forms and a briefing note with more information are available from the Vote Office. We now come to motion number 6 relating to the European Scrutiny Committee. Minister to move.
Move formally.
Richard Tice.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I think it's very important to have a debate on this motion because we've heard all afternoon, haven't we? Splendid speeches, maiden speeches, but the thrust of this afternoon has been scrutiny, accountability, responsibility. And it seems interesting to me that the other House has a committee to scrutinise our relations with the European Union. Indeed, proudly today they've just announced that they've been reformed. And yet the government wants to reform the relationship of the House of Lords. And it seems to me extraordinary. We could have a situation, Madam Deputy Speaker, where there's a committee to scrutinise relations with the European Union in the other place, but the importance of scrutiny, indeed this of all of the 27 committees referred to on the order paper, this is the only committee that has the word scrutiny. And having been talking about scrutiny all afternoon, it's the one committee that the Leader of the House wants to do away with. And I find that quite extraordinary because we've heard from the government before the election, during the election, and since the election about the importance of our relations with our friends in the European Union and how negotiations may take place on a whole range and raft of important issues. And surely the whole point of our debate about our relationship with the European Union, people will remember, do you remember that slogan? Take back control of our borders, our money, and our laws. And this, of course, is the place where we debate and legislate for laws on behalf of the people. So if we're going to take back control of our laws, then surely those laws, those negotiations proposed by this government on behalf of the people should be scrutinised in detail and earnest, as has been proposed all afternoon with regard to other matters. So I would suggest to the Leader of the House and the government and the whips that we need to reflect on this. And could I urge the Leader of the House, through Madam Deputy Speaker, actually to withdraw this motion, to reflect on it from the sedentary position of our sunbeds over the next month, and then bring it back to the House in September. And that's what I would urge that's what I would urge, Madam Deputy Speaker. Yes, I will give way. Thank you.
Thank you, for giving way. Those of us who won't be on a sunbed, but will be within our constituencies, do recognise the point. He and I will take a very different view as to the benefits of what this government is doing to reset our relationship with Europe, to finally get the trading benefits sorted now that we've left the European Union, to sort out the mess left by the last government with the border tax. does he recognise, as I recognise, there is now a lacuna where people may question where this debate will happen and what role parliamentarians may play in it? And perhaps one of the fruitful things is to clarify what's going to happen to the European Statutory Instruments Committee, which seems to have been dissolved, yet was looking at the laws that we were transposing into the UK. So there are a number of questions here that may not be for this evening, but are for the future of this Parliament. And what he is expressing, he and I might disagree on the outcomes, but we both agree they are important questions and we'd like to understand what will happen next.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Honourable Lady for her constructive and positive contribution. The reality is, Mr. Speaker, that it's incumbent on us, on behalf of millions of people who believe in democracy in this country, who wanted to take back control, our job is to scrutinise the negotiations that the newly elected government will have in multiple areas with Brussels, with the European Union and with European nations. And it seems extraordinary, just extraordinary. I'm not sure how millions of people will understand how we take away that ability to look in detail at I'll give way to the Honourable Member.
Between the two honourable friends who have spoken, I guess I'm the third way, because I don't agree with either of them. But I would say this. He has a significant point. And I'd say this to the government front bench. In the course of the evolution of the relationship with the European Union, which will happen in the next 5-10 years, it's very important that they maintain the trust of the British people as to what they're doing. Yeah. And therefore, if this mechanism doesn't exist, I would like the front bench to actually say what mechanism will replace it. Will it be a duty on the part of different select committees to report on their part of it, or will there be some other mechanism which keeps everybody on board on the journey they're taking us on?
I thank the Honourable Member for his most helpful contribution, because he has reinforced the point. Where is the scrutiny that our citizens rely on all of us to embark and to involve with the government? Because however well-intentioned the negotiations of the government are, actually we have a role to play to avoid the unintended consequences. I think it's splendid that the other place has got their own scrutiny committee. And I reinforce, I haven't been invited over there, but I reinforce the point, which is that this is the House that is democratically elected. We are charged with scrutinising the government's negotiations with partners all around the world. And it is incumbent, I believe, on the Leader of the House, on the government, to have and to continue this European Scrutiny Committee that has existed, has done good work, and is surely the best placed to continue that focus and that good work. I will give way to the Honourable Member.
For giving way. I served on the European Scrutiny Committee for the entirety of the last Parliament, and actually its work evolved from simply scrutinising those documents that came from the European Union and had direct effect into our law, to taking over much of the functions of the Exiting the European Union Select Committee after it was disbanded. So that committee was actually doing critical cross-governmental scrutiny work on things like retained EU law, the negotiations over the Gibraltar border, the continuing operation of the TCA. So actually, as a select committee, it wasn't departmental in its outlook. It was entirely cross-cutting across all of government.
I thank the Honourable Member for that most helpful contribution, in a sense reinforcing the value of this committee, this focus and this determination to get the laws right for our millions of citizens. And so I therefore just re-urge the Leader of the House. I think this is the time to withdraw this motion, to reflect upon these contributions, and let's come back in September and let's have a debate upon it and find the right way to proceed. But I would, my contribution through Mr. Speaker, is that this motion should be withdrawn. Thank you very much.
The House.
Thank you very much, and can I thank the gentleman for his contributions. I look forward to watching his race with his towel to the Sun Lounger. I'm sure he'll be beaten by many other Europeans on that race. Anyway, I have to say I am a little confused by his plea to keep a select committee that was a function of our membership of the European Union when he has spent his life and all his efforts for getting us to leave the European Union, which we now have done. And therefore, this committee, whose principal job it was to examine the documents produced by the EU institutions that the government would then automatically take on board, that job of that committee is no longer required. And in fact, as he and his party, I understood, wished that this Parliament, other government departments and therefore other select committees should take on that job of considering all of these issues in detail, because we are no longer members of the European Union and therefore we no longer are required to automatically take those on. So I've listened to what he said, but I am very confused by it, and therefore I won't be, but I will. I'm not going to give way, because we're all at the end of a very long day, and many of us are looking forward to our European holidays, and so I know that's where he'll be going straight away from here to spend his euros on a few bit of tapas and European beers. So I won't take up his offer of withdrawing the motion. I've heard what he said, but perhaps he can reflect a little bit over that tapas and a beer on his sun lounger at the confusion that he's displayed tonight.
The question is, as on the order paper, as many of that opinion say aye. Aye! Of the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. I'll let the front benches change over.